Have you ever imagined that a simple piece of dry wood could be worth more than a golden crown?
Before you hear today's emotional story of a poor woodcutter whose tears changed everything, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Long ago, in a small village, there lived a humble woodcutter named Rahim. The only things he owned were a broken axe and an unshakable faith. Every morning before sunrise, Rahim walked deep into the forest. He spent the entire day cutting firewood. After selling the wood at the market, he earned just enough money to feed himself and his family, often with only a simple meal. Yet he never complained. He believed that God always watches over those who work with honesty and faith. Meanwhile, in the royal palace lived a beautiful princess who had never experienced poverty or hardship. She had grown up surrounded by luxury, believing that money could buy anything in the world. One day, the princess and her friends visited the forest. At that very moment, Rahim was chopping wood under the scorching sun. Sweat covered his face, and he looked completely exhausted. The princess laughed as she watched him from a distance. "Look at that poor man," she said. "His life must be so miserable. Every day he does nothing but fight with trees and dirt. There can't be any happiness in a life like that." Her friends joined in and laughed as well. Rahim heard every word. He stopped working, wiped the sweat from his face, and looked at the princess. There was no anger in his eyes, only peace. In a calm voice, he said, "Your Highness, I may be poor, but my heart is filled with peace. My faith has taught me that the happiness earned through honesty and hard work is far more valuable than all the riches in the world." The princess was shocked. No one had ever spoken to her with such quiet confidence and wisdom before.
The princess couldn't stop thinking about Rahim's words. That night, although she was surrounded by luxury, she found no peace. For the first time in her life, she questioned whether wealth alone could truly bring happiness.
The next morning, she secretly returned to the forest. Rahim was once again hard at work, chopping wood with the same determination and calm spirit. Curious, the princess asked, "Rahim, don't you ever get tired of living such a difficult life?" Rahim smiled gently. "Of course I get tired," he replied. "I'm only human. But every sunrise is another blessing from God, and every honest day's work is a gift. That is enough to keep me going." His answer left the princess speechless. A few days later, disaster struck the kingdom. A powerful storm swept through the land. Trees fell, roads disappeared beneath floodwaters, and many families lost their homes. Without hesitation, Rahim stopped thinking about himself. He gathered firewood, built small rafts, and helped rescue children, the elderly, and anyone trapped by the rising water. The princess watched everything with her own eyes. The poorest man in the kingdom was risking his life to save complete strangers, expecting nothing in return. Deep inside, something changed. She finally understood that true greatness isn't measured by gold, crowns, or royal titles. It is measured by kindness, courage, and a heart that serves others. The king soon heard about Rahim's incredible bravery. He ordered his guards to bring the humble woodcutter to the palace. Standing before the king, Rahim bowed with respect. The king smiled warmly and said, "You may not wear a crown, but today you have shown everyone what a real hero looks like." The entire royal court fell silent. Even the nobles lowered their heads in respect. At that very moment, the princess realized that the man she once laughed at had become the greatest example of honor she had ever seen.
The king was deeply moved by Rahim's courage and honesty. In front of the entire royal court, he offered the humble woodcutter a chest filled with gold coins.
Everyone expected Rahim to accept the reward without hesitation. But Rahim respectfully bowed his head and said, "Your Majesty, I don't need gold. If you truly wish to reward me, please use this treasure to help the poor families who lost everything in the storm." The courtroom fell completely silent. No one had ever refused the king's generosity before. The king smiled with pride and replied, "Rahim, today you have proven that the richest person is not the one with the most money, but the one with the kindest heart." The princess lowered her head in shame. She finally realized how wrong she had been to judge someone by his appearance. From that day on, she began spending time helping the poor instead of showing off her wealth.
Weeks passed, and the kingdom slowly recovered from the disaster.
With the king's support and Rahim's guidance, new homes were built, farms were restored, and hope returned to the people. Rahim continued living in his small cottage, refusing every offer of luxury. When people asked why he didn't move into the palace, he would smile and say, "A peaceful heart is worth more than the grandest palace." His words spread across the kingdom. Travelers came from distant lands just to meet the humble woodcutter whose wisdom had changed so many lives. Even the princess became one of his closest students, learning that true happiness comes from serving others, not from being served.
Years later, Rahim's story became a legend.
Parents told their children about the poor woodcutter whose faith was stronger than fear and whose kindness was greater than any treasure. The princess, now wiser and more compassionate, often shared Rahim's lessons with the people of the kingdom. She would say, "Never judge a person by their clothes, their wealth, or their position. Look at their heart, because that is where true greatness lives." And Rahim? He remained the same humble man he had always been, grateful to God, faithful in his work, and ready to help anyone in need. His life proved one unforgettable truth. A crown may earn respect, but a kind heart earns love forever.
As Rahim's story spread across the kingdom, people from distant villages came to seek his advice.
One afternoon, a wealthy merchant approached him and asked, "Rahim, what is the secret to your happiness? You own almost nothing, yet you always smile." Rahim gently replied, "Happiness isn't something you buy. It grows from gratitude, honesty, and faith." The merchant returned home with a changed heart. From that day forward, he began helping struggling families instead of chasing more wealth.
One cold winter morning, an elderly woman knocked on Rahim's door.
She had no food, no firewood, and nowhere to go. Without a second thought, Rahim gave her the last bundle of firewood he had and shared the little food left in his home. That night, Rahim and his family went to bed hungry. But the next morning, the villagers arrived with food, blankets, and fresh supplies. His kindness had inspired an entire community to care for one another.
The king continued to hear remarkable stories about Rahim.
Wanting to learn more, he disguised himself as an ordinary traveler and visited Rahim's village. Rahim welcomed the stranger with kindness, offering him water and a simple meal without asking who he was. Before leaving, the king smiled and thought, "A truly noble person treats everyone with the same respect." The next day, the king revealed his identity and publicly praised Rahim's character before the entire kingdom. The princess never forgot the lessons Rahim had taught her. She began visiting poor villages, helping children attend school, caring for widows, and providing food to hungry families. The people were amazed by how much she had changed. She no longer wanted to be remembered as a proud princess. Instead, she hoped to be remembered as someone who served others with compassion. Many years later, Rahim grew old, but his spirit never faded. One evening, surrounded by grateful villagers, he shared one final message: "Never let money control your heart. Wealth may come and go, but honesty, faith, and kindness will stay with you forever." Those words became the greatest treasure he left behind. Even today, people remember Rahim not because he was rich or powerful, but because he proved that a humble heart can change the world. Months passed, and Rahim's name became known far beyond the kingdom. Travelers crossed mountains and rivers just to meet the humble woodcutter, whose wisdom had changed so many lives. Some expected to find a wealthy man living in luxury, but instead they found the same small wooden cottage, the same broken axe hanging on the wall, and the same warm smile that welcomed everyone. One afternoon, a young man arrived and said, "Rahim, I failed at everything. I've lost my business, my friends have abandoned me, and I don't think I can start over." Rahim quietly handed him a small seed. "Take this," he said. "If you plant it today, nothing will happen tomorrow. But if you water it with patience every day, one day it will become a strong tree." Life works the same way. The young man followed Rahim's advice. Years later, he returned as a successful farmer and thanked Rahim with tears in his eyes. Rahim simply smiled and said, "Don't thank me. Thank God for giving you the strength to never give up."
এবং সুন্দর অংশটিও কপি করার জন্য গুছিয়ে দেওয়া হলো। One year, the kingdom faced the worst drought anyone could remember. Rivers dried up, crops withered, and fear spread from village to village.
Many people blamed their bad luck and gave up hope. Rahim refused to surrender. Every day he gathered the villagers, encouraging them to dig wells, save every drop of water, and help one another survive. Seeing his determination, the king sent workers, tools, and food to support the villages. After months of hard work, rain finally returned. The fields turned green once again, and the harvest was better than anyone had imagined. The villagers celebrated, but Rahim reminded them, miracles often begin when people refuse to lose hope. The princess had changed completely. She no longer wore expensive jewelry during her visits to the villages. Instead, she spent her days teaching children to read, helping the sick, and comforting families who had lost loved ones. One evening, she confessed to Rahim, "I used to believe power came from wealth. Now I know real power comes from serving others." Rahim nodded with a gentle smile. The greatest leaders, he said, are the ones who lift others up instead of looking down on them. Those words stayed with the princess for the rest of her life.
As Rahim grew older, the king invited him to become a royal advisor.
The entire kingdom expected him to accept the honor. Instead, Rahim politely replied, "Your Majesty, my place is with the people. My greatest joy is helping those who have no one else." The king respected his decision. From that day on, whenever the kingdom faced a difficult choice, the king would visit Rahim's little cottage before making any important decision. It became a symbol of wisdom, humility, and hope for the entire nation. Years later, Rahim's health began to fail, but his faith remained stronger than ever. On a peaceful evening, surrounded by villagers, children, the princess, and even the king, Rahim shared one final lesson. Life isn't measured by how much we own, he said softly. It's measured by the lives we touch, the kindness we show, and the faith we keep. Tears filled everyone's eyes. After Rahim passed away, a memorial to be built in the village, not a monument of gold, but one made from strong wood, honoring the humble woodcutter who had taught an entire kingdom the true meaning of courage, faith, and compassion. Generations came and went, but Rahim's story never faded. His name lived on in the hearts of the people, reminding the world that even the poorest person can leave behind the richest legacy of all.
Even after everything changed, Rahim remained the same humble, grateful man he had always been.
From time to time, the princess would visit him and ask, "How can I build a truly happy and meaningful life?" Rahim would simply point toward the sky and say, "When you put your trust in God, life finds its true purpose." Every one of us faces battles in life. Some are seen, while others remain hidden deep within our hearts. It is our faith that gives us the strength to keep moving forward. If you want to stand strong through life's toughest moments, just like Rahim, never give up. When your heart is filled with patience, honesty, and faith, no force on earth can truly diminish your worth. The princess's transformation reminds us that pride is one of the greatest enemies we can ever face. Rahim's life teaches us that genuine faith, integrity, and perseverance can make an ordinary person greater than any king. As today's story comes to an end, we have one small request. If this story touched your heart or inspired you in any way, please support our channel by subscribing. Give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below telling us which part of Rahim's journey moved you the most. Your support, your kind words, and your encouragement inspire us to keep bringing you powerful stories that touch hearts and change lives. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep your faith strong, and may your life be filled with hope, courage, and peace, just like Rahim's. The story may be ending, but we hope Rahim's lesson stays with you forever. We'll see you again in our next video with another unforgettable true story, one that will move your heart, inspire your soul, and perhaps even bring tears to your eyes.